I mean, Rise, he's great, right? He's a great champion right now. You just don't see him in the top lane very often.
It's a lot of AP damage, this Afrika draft, but you don't have a tank as KT rolls, not traditionally. You have Braum, but you don't have a way to really itemize against it, so I think it's actually fine. Rise can actually, if he gets a lot of help, especially in the early game, start to do well against Gangplank in the lane. And it also does kind of shore up some of the missing late game scaling damage that Afrika were going to deal with if they didn't pick this. You know, if they ran the Gwen, which was the other option that was being hovered there, you don't have the same sort of consistent damage throughput. You have a lot of staying power and stickiness in a team fight, but I do like this a lot. Nice adaptation here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I definitely like the fact that Varus with his lethality will get a lot more value because you have to itemize MR into that amount of magic damage, even with just the Rise. On this side, you mentioned the amount of scaling, the GP and the Ezreal especially going to be popping off, and we've seen what LeBlanc can do nowadays in the later stages of the game. Even though not traditionally known as like a scaly type of champion, she can just blow you up, and she doesn't seem to care how you define her.
Yeah, there's a lot of lockdown here on the side of, you know, the Freaker Freaks comp, and a lot of it from long range. You know, Lehens is going to have a lot of power to set up team fights, to set up potentially picks, and then front-to-back team fighting because it's very tanky. This is going to be a really interesting one. Both of our games here have been quite unique because of the players who are on the Rift here and the kind of weird, unique scenario that KT find themselves in, where they were playing UCal and Giddy, and now they're swapping players because it's the last run here of the season. And we get both a Lissandra and a Rise in the same game. Very cool. Very fun.
On the same team, hanging out. They don't get to hang out very often.
There's a Xinjiao between them, but, you know.
Yeah.
They'll hang out later.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, on their side, they have the Varus poke, but other than that, we're going all in. Going to look to try to find somebody in the back line, and definitely a lot of slippery members on the side of KT. I think Afrika will have to get some work done after a couple of items.
You pointed it out earlier, but Fly has spent a lot of time playing Lissandra in his career, so also kind of a comfort pick for him. You know, we were thinking about the Orianna as one of the picks he could have picked into the Rise if it was taken, but because they went LeBlanc, just ended up being a completely different feel here. And, you know, you could see Dove has played 6 games, rather. He's 4-2 on the LeBlanc. It's another one he's been very scary on. A lot of the focus, I think, has been on Doran this season for KT Roster, for a lot of the fans, because of, you know, his history, how famous he is, how great his stats are, even in losses. But for me, like, the big standout player for KT this season has been Dove, in fact. Someone I was skeptical about being on the starting roster over UCal.
Oh,
Doran.
Man, Doran's angry. He's going to get that shot in and burn him down a bit. Not going to get the kill, but he, you know, he trades flashes, he holds control of the lane, and that's a good trade.
Yeah, absolutely agree. No flash for a Rise is way worse off here against a champion who has oranges and can get out of a lot of sticky situations. He's going to feel very happy with that. Gets an early teleport out of him too, because he has to back there. So an amazing start, in fact, for Doran here.
Yeah. Especially because now you can just, with the way that the Lee Sin's pathing, he can be up on the top side and protect you, just in case the Xinjiao decides to get a little bit spicy. Not necessarily as good clear on that champion, so might look for some ganks instead onto a flashless GP. As it's been 393 days since Afrika King lost to Damwon Gaming Nuggery in LCK Summer last year.
I thought Khan played Rise top at some point earlier this season, or in
maybe
spring.
It was MSI.
Yeah, maybe. I swear I thought Khan played it, but guess I was wrong on that one. Okay, Blank waiting here because he's got to be nearby, right? Like, he can't see him, but he knows.
Yeah, it's really smart, but Dove also playing it out. Very smart. Gonna see the ward. Some prio from top lane. He's got a 2-on-2. Fly and Dread still getting in there. Nice setup here But now Dove is going to get here a little bit earlier, actually. Keen will get here on time as well. And the Scuttle Crab is still available 3-on-3 over the Scuttle Crab. And Afrika say, we're going to go home. We used our engage. We would not like to follow up on that, as Dove will look for a follow-up here. And the slipperiness, they're easily able to get over the wall, as Blank is now in the face of Dread. And will push him off of the Crux.
Really nice amount of gold being stolen here, experience being stolen here from Blank. You're from Dread by Blank, going in and taking those Krugs is insanely mobile, of course, with this Lee Sin and can push the issue really hard. And when Keen doesn't have Flash, you talked about the Flash trade just moments before, it's really hard for Keen to even think of getting involved in this fight long term. And I think that's a big reason why Afrika decided to back away is, it's early game Rise, who's got a tier, and that's it. As you see, a bit of a win streak here right now for LeBlanc here in the LCK, 6 games. Yeah. And some of our top mid laners all on that list, including Lava, has been one of the first players to play LeBlanc this year.
Yeah, and Dove as well. Couple of wins for him on the champion recently, part of that 6-game win streak. As this is Fly's win rate on Lissandra.
Very high.
Wasn't joking. This guy plays a lot of Lissandra, especially into LeBlanc.
He's a big fan of it. Long con play here from Blank. The ward is actually super valuable here for Keen.
It's gigantic.
So well done.
As we have potentially Zeus going down, he is going to stand beside 5Kid and be able to get away, but now 5Kid is taking a lot of damage. And it's part of the reason why you don't see Blank run at the bottom scuttle. Knows he's not going to have Prio down there with the Ezreal, so he's just up here. And you talked about that ward. Look at the amount of value this is getting.
And Blank doesn't know.
So much time.
Yeah, he doesn't know the ward is there, so he's like, I'm very clever. I mean, Keen is really selling the idea that he doesn't know about it. Oh, nice dodge.
Yeah.
And that's all you need. Sorry, Blank. You wasted your time. I knew you were coming. That was actually so well played by Keen, because he knows that Blank is there and still moves forward, still shows himself. He's just super ready to react and get that root. The situation here is obviously very even for these two teams, but I really like the proactivity we're seeing from the side of KT Rolster, even though they're slightly down on gold.
Take a look at this. I mean, they know that Blank wants to get back to clearing the jungle, so immediately Dread, outside of vision, is able to come up to the top side door and showing a little bit of respect, but maybe not enough. He's got Cannon Barrage, but even Lehens is here, so what are you going to do? It's 3v1. That's the free kill over to Afrika, as it will be... Oh, Lehens actually in a rough spot here. And you can see later that he's going to have to flash this wall if he wants to potentially survive. His teammates are trying to zone and get him some room, but that might be their demise, as Dread is really getting in their face. He's trying to trade it down. One more auto might do it. Dove over the wall with the help of Zeus. Should be able to take him down, and that is a double kill into the hands of the LeBlanc.
Yeah, you're playing around the idea that Afrika can't come in here, or rather, KT can't come in there and punish you when you roam up that far as Lehens, when you're you're between the blue side top turrets as the Leona. You're going to be in a really rough spot if you do end up staying too long. The Cannon Barrage is obviously not going to be enough to save Doran here, but it does buy a lot of time, and that's critical when you do see those rotations coming through. As you can see, Lissandra, in a position to just stay, or was actually not in a position to rotate, so stays mid is what I was going to say, and Dove's just denying Keen mana here by taking this fruit. It's just a skirmish that you're going to win as KT Rolster here, unfortunately for Afrika. And that's a lot of extra gold that goes over. Once again, an extremely proactive play. Goes a little bit greedy.
Yeah. Playing very selfless. He gets himself in front of Dove, and he flashes in and lands the E. And it allows the LeBlanc to basically be free, because all the damage had been used onto Blank. So he's able to pick up those 2 kills. He's the one that gets fed. It's just a great start here. Of course, he's not quite going to have the CS numbers of the Lissandra, who stayed in the lane for a little bit, but that's totally fine. The 2 kills will easily make up for it. We haven't looked too much at the bottom lane, and it's mainly because it's just been... There was that one aggressive trade onto Zeus, but he's brawled. He just flashed away, and that was totally fine.
Yeah, sometimes this can be I mean, it's not a great matchup for Ezreal, but sometimes it can be really hard if the Varus gets a single kill and gets that Dirk online. It's not building that this game. Went for the Warhammer instead. As Afrika are going to look to start this Rift Herald, and with the mid-prio they have, it's completely realistic as Blank is nearby. Could look for maybe a steal here, but securing the eye is just out of the question. He's not even going to go for it. 5Kids is saying, you know what, I'm going to stay bot, pings it, and that will be Rift Herald guaranteed now for Afrika Freaks.
Yeah, pretty smooth. As you mentioned, they control the area, so they're just kind of able to get it. I thought maybe you could use Dove, but then you look at his items, and yeah, he got the 2 kills, but it's mostly just on getting the Merc Treads online early. He's probably holding on to a bit of gold as well. Or, you know, just spending it on the Tome, the Merc Treads, and the Dark Seal.
But it's looking to be aggressive here.
Yeah.
Fly just getting angry about it, but will not be able to retaliate, sadly. Love the sound effect there. This is a game that is very, very on a knife's edge, I think. I mean, when you consider how these comps are going to function later on, like they both have really good damage scaling. They both have decent initiation. The poke with the LeBlanc versus the poke from the Varus later on, they're very similar, actually, in so many ways. As that's a lot of value out of 1Q. But it's a game where if you get an advantage as one of these two teams, it snowballs very quickly because your opponent's comp is very similar to yours, but when it falls behind, it's just like the same thing but worse in a lot of ways. I think the biggest difference is going to be in the AD carries because Ezreal is going to do so much extended long damage fairly freely in a 5v5, whereas Leo is going to be forced to poke and chip away and be accurate before the team fight breaks out. So I think that's really where the comps branch quite significantly. So we'll see how it all comes down, but both of these teams being aggressive hasn't led to a significant advantage either way, which is why this game is still so close.
Yep. Very, very even here. And curious to see where that Rift Herald will get used as Fly. He's getting into the thick of it. Maybe got a little bit too low for himself as even Blank is coming on over. Barrage trying to bait out that ultimate, and there it is. Can they have any follow-up on it? Doesn't look like it. As Q is down and probably Distortion as well, so that is going to be the end of that. They get the ult out of Fly, and that's about it.
Yeah, doesn't have to flash or anything like that. It reacted very quickly to the Q there, and as Blank, you couldn't really play that differently. You can't like wait for her to ult and then Q because she's not going to Q until, or not going to ult until you do Q. So it was actually really well played. And when you think about the Cannon Barrage being down right now, it's actually pretty huge that ends up being used for essentially nothing because it's on a much longer cooldown and is going to be very impactful around this first objective fight if we ever do have it. Again, the risk is very high if you lose this first fight. So both teams really wanting to wait till they have a huge advantage, and I don't know if this advantage is quite huge enough for Dread to be starting this one, and he is going to agree. They have that ward there, which is getting a lot of value. And now it's gone.
Yep. It's top lane. Every time we look at it, it just looks better and better for Keen. That's 2 plates that he got by literally just walking up to the turret and autoing it alongside of a bunch of minions, so seems to be going extremely well. And there's a lot of vision around the dragon, but not very much up towards the top, and maybe Doran is just trying to play as safe as possible.
Look at Lehens, he's coming up. Like, this is going to be potentially a dead gangplank if Doran does not react to this. Now, they do see, with this ward, the rotation over. And even though Blank's here, you've got to be so careful right now. You don't have Cannon Barrage. You do have Flash, but this turret is not going to alone save you. They're so outnumbered right now. The turret's going to go down. Doran, I think this is dangerous.
Yeah, they're kind of getting stuck in between these spots, but Zeus gets there right on time. What a timing to be there, and the Q comes in. And thankfully, they have the Realm Warp to get everybody out, but the Sonic Wave finish off from Blank is enough. And that's a dive gone wrong, because they're not able to get anyone except the plates.
So well timed, as you mentioned, from Zeus rotating up. And it's such a great bait play, actually, because Doran is like, I'm vulnerable, I know you're going to drop Rift Herald, I'm going to stay here. And so he sells the idea to Afrika so extremely well, and even if, you know, he's got those rotations coming up, the timing is even slightly off. If he's even a second later, then that's a dead gangplank, the turret goes down, and as a result of this incredible play from Zeus, not only does he live and they get a kill, but the turret survives on top of it all. And this is just really again, extremely close game because the Rift Child doesn't get as much gold as it could have gotten there from one really nice defensive play. Great macro read here from KT Rolster.
Yeah. Getting there right on time. Might not be able to save their own blue buff. And 5Kid, you know, he's just farming down here against Keen. Should be fine. The Ezreal is always going to have some fun against the Ryze unless he potentially gets flashed on. Leo will eventually take this down, and that's actually the first turret of the game, so takes them a while, but they finally get some value out of that Rift Herald's damage to the turret at least.
Always a funny situation here when you have this kind of matchup going on. It's 5Kid's like, I'm not online yet. But Ryze is also like, well, yeah, I still just have my first mythic component. Now he has his Everfrost as he goes home. Neither of them want to fight each other, but it's kind of a weird matchup to see for just a second before the Ezreal's going to switch lanes. As you watch this happen, it's so perfect how quickly Zeus rotates in. Blank is able to get out with his flash, and then that's a dead Lehens because they have turret aggro. And then they are able to use that kill to secure the turret defense. Yeah. Look at this, so perfect. The kick is great. So amazing here. And then you just have the follow-up damage. It's just the last possible second. I mean, you show up 1 second earlier and they abort the plan too, like you don't get the kill.
Yeah.
It's just like at the perfect moment.
Yeah. And that can happen sometimes. You know, you just all run in a straight line trying to dive somewhere deep. We've seen that a lot today. Not even from only these two teams. If you remember the first series, Liv Sandbox doing a similar thing. You have to see what's on the opposite side and take that into account. Obviously, they didn't know that Zeus was there. And that was a big moment. But even the Lee Sin kick in a line, getting that much value is it's unfortunate for you.
Do see that it's going to be either Mountain or Infernal Soul here. Freaka do finally take the first Drake of the game at 15.5 minutes. Might not be a Soul at all as Lehens
trying to get in on Zeus, but he is Braum, so he takes about 10% health. Finally gets a little bit more. So they're able to get in there. Some True Shot Barrage value hits 3. Actually, didn't do as much as I think I was expecting, but still some decent value. Doesn't seem like KT, although I say that, they are moving in to at least take down this ward, and now Dove is here, and Dove is where a lot of that value is as in goes Fly, tries to get down onto Doran, and he will. Ults himself just to zone Dove away as well. It looks like Afrika have secured the objective.
They have so many ways to control choke points, Afrika do, and even though the Cannon Barrage comes through, the damage is there, and Fly can escape with his ultimate, as you mentioned, is okay.
Really getting on in there. The Sonic Wave has landed, but it's actually 5Kid who picks up the kill, and Blank just barely is going to survive. Actually die. Not sure why I said survive. As they did take him down. And now the push from Afrika coming in, but Dove, he's still so scary. Got to be careful about this. That's some really perfectly timed piercing arrow value there. As Keen is also having some fun. We have Doran coming in from the right side. They did not expect the TP as he's like, well, where's my team? I guess I'm maybe just going to have to flash away from this one. As the Q will miss, but the piercing arrow gets it down, and the flank from Fly is much better as 5Kid picks him off. But at the end of the day, here comes Keen once again. 5Kid going to have to flash away, but he still will go down.
This game is out of control. This series is just a little bit...
it's off the rails.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I use that term a lot, so I wanted to say, because this is like more than off the rails. Like, the rails weren't built for this game.
Clown Fiesta?
Yeah, Clown Fiesta.
Do people say that?
Yeah, people do say that from time to time. I think this one would get the
How about Yakety Sax? Is that... Has it been long enough since we've used that one?
Yeah, I think we could say there's been a little bit of Yakety Sax. And it all starts here, the Yakety Sax. Is Afrika have, you know, such a great amount of positional control here. You're walking through this choke, and the barrage that goes down here is just like, I mean, it's desperate. You can't turn the fight that way. It's such a positional disadvantage that the slow isn't going to save you, and then they decide to stick around and force the issue even further and get punished for it. And yeah, it's a 1-for-1, but you end up getting the support versus losing your jungle. So the defense here is so much more difficult. And then Doran is extremely hopeful with this play and decides to donate his flash to KT Rolster. So he does end up going down. And then 5Kid does end up getting a kill here, but also dies, and it's just it's a fiesta, you know?
And then Lee Sin joins the fight. The unexpected character in episode 19.
Episode match 88, this happens, you know? Yeah.
He was just there for the filler. You don't really remember him. Not too interesting of a character, at least in that moment. Not in that chapter. As he was not able to help his team too much.
Some for fun gaming going on in here. In the end of the regular season, as it often is. And Afreeca losing that first game make it, you know, a lot more difficult to be hopeful even about a win here. Just to point out the stakes to everybody at home who are probably wondering, like, what in the world is going on in this weird, like, parallel universe we're living in right now. But if we zoom out, Afreeca have a pretty significant lead. They are 4,000 gold ahead. They have a Drake advantage. They have complete map control. And they're utilizing their comp much better, as KT are really trying to spread themselves a little bit too thin in a lot of these fights. And I think Doran has decided Cannon Barrage is a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's not.
It's a very good ability, but maybe not that good.
He's 0-3-3 because so many resources have been committed to taking him out here. And, you know, as a result, the Rise is going to be a lot scarier, a lot faster in this game. And that was, I think, the best adaptation Afreeca could have made in this draft is putting the Rise top. And it's working very well for them now, but it's going to work even better for them later. As the other side of the argument is 5Kid is starting to get kind of fed too. And he is going to be the other aspect of the scaling that comes through here for KT, because they have 3 champions that do a ton of damage late game. But will he be in the right spot to do it all the time? Because Afreeca have so many ways to get on top of him and burst him down. They have really nice long-range engage. It's going to be an interesting finish to what's already been, even though it's not even necessarily halfway over, a pretty crazy best-of-3, Valdez.
Yeah, it's very true. You can look at some of the items that have come across. You know, we were talking about itemizing against double AP laners, which is not something we have all the time in this current meta. See a lot of AP junglers, so double AP laners kind of, you know, it's kind of fallen out a little bit, but we see it here, of course. And we got double Merc Treads on the side of KT, so definitely itemizing against that. We have basically no armor. I think we see the first piece of armor, the cloth armor, purchased by the Braum. And again, this is going to allow Leo to do some insane damage as these fights come along. We've already seen him do a nice amount of damage. He's incredibly fed already.
The Merc Treads are, you know, it's not negligible, but it is a very small amount of MR. But just in general, the comp of KT is not tanky. They do not have a tank. Outside of Lee Sin, right? And he's not extremely tanky. So, like, the potential for some of these carries to get blown up is really high, is what I'm trying to get at here. Like, Lee Sin is not going to be able to frontline for them. He's more of an engaged style champion, right? He's going to look for kicks. He's going to look to go in, do a little bit of damage, but then that's where things can go very wrong after that. Is once he's dead or forced away, then you can't do damage very easily as KT. Whereas Dread is going to have a lot more value because of the itemization, you know, issues here. Is Doran will just get away with this.
Yeah, there's a nice chunk to Keen as well. Look on the side of Afreeca. Probably going to spec into a couple of Zhonya's here, you'd have to imagine, at least. We'll see if maybe Leona gets one later on the game if it goes that long. But Flying Keen should pick one up, and that's going to be some nice, you know, extra utility. You mentioned how it's, you know, it's a small amount of MR. You want the tenacity too, of course.
Yeah.
Same thing for the Zhonya's. It's like, okay, you're not building it for the armor, but it kind of helps a little bit. And, you know, it's going to be important, especially when the Ezreal and the Gangplank start getting more and more items and just get to be a little bit more ridiculous as time comes along.
5Kid does have Cleanse. Doesn't have to use it here, but that is a crucial thing to note in this game. He is going to be able to get away from a lot of the CC if he uses it correctly, but if he loses his Cleanse because of a Zenith Blade or something like that before a team fight, then he's going to have to position so safely afterwards when that is on cooldown. And he's just actually going to build into the Frozen Heart here. Not going to build any MR in this game. because he's more concerned about the arrows than some of that damage you're going to see from the Lissandra or the Rise. And I think as an Ezreal in this case, that's how you want to look at this, to be honest. That's your biggest threat is, KT, there's a Baron being taken.
They have no idea. I think this is a great idea to go for this very early on. Dove is going to see it, but it's too little too late. Blank can't get in there. And they had somebody in the top lane. They had 2 guys mid, and they don't assume that you're going to duo Baron at 23 minutes into the game. And with how slow the pace has been and the little amount of vision that KT had, it's actually the perfect call from Afrika.
Yeah, it's really smart, and it's because of the control they had, they could have easily just gotten out, too, if KT decided to go, oh, no, that's not allowed. They can just back off, and they actually have so many tools they can use to kind of peace out, right? And as a result, it's really low risk, but the fact that KT don't check at all until the very last second means that they get away with it, and now they're going to have even more control over the map. It's not an ideal scenario here for KT Rolster. It's been a lot of funky Barons in this best of 3. This one definitely takes the cake in terms of just getting away with it. And I'm a little bit worried about what this lack of map control is going to do for KT's comp, because it's so difficult to farm as Ezreal in this situation when map control is wrestled out from underneath you before you have your third item online against this type of composition.
Dove, he's going to find Dread here. We're going to see the Crescent Guard immediately, and that's a good idea. Now you got to get out because immediately teleports will be called in. But that's pretty free for KT. They get the teleport out. They're buying some time against this Baron, distracting them. Unfortunately, there is the side effect of Afrika all in one spot to potentially push, but push not going super well so far.
Yeah, a little bit weird for Dread to just kind of walk in that way. Does end up losing his ultimate here, and the teleport has to be used, as you said. But, like, the other part of this is, as you mentioned, the power that they have as a group. And this is going to be the bottom turret going down. All the while, Fly is pushing mid with Baron buffed minions. So, KT unfortunately can't trade back a kill because that would really relieve a lot of the pressure. But getting Dread's ultimate and a teleport doesn't get you anything in the immediate term. Yeah, not that much value out of that barrage.
Great wave clear here from Doran, as we are going to see the Everfrost being annoying, but it is GP. And this allows KT to buy a lot of time. Actually, of course, the Ezreal not great, as Dove is going to find Fly here in the jungle, but Aftershock pretty good, as now they're going for the engage. This Cannon Barrage getting a lot of value, but it's not enough as they zone them into the wall, but they still get blasted in the face by all of that Varus damage, as now Dread goes in, and that's a huge amount of healing that keeps him alive. And the Crescent Guard will be enough as well, and you can see 5Kid, he's not able to stay up here either. I mean, as the push will continue.
Yeah, this is going to be a dead inhibitor, and with teleport coming through, they can actually look to maybe even potentially end KT Rolster with these long death timers. We're 26 minutes into the game. You have a really strong push coming through here. Baron buff for only 10 more seconds, but it's going to be enough to get these minions in. Realm Warp on top.
Yeah, just going straight through the front door as Zeus is trying to help out with a bit of disengage, and Leo's going to get aggro on the turrets, taking some damage away, but will it be enough is the question. Doran's alive, but he can't get close enough, and there's still 5 members of Afrika that are up and healthy, and all you got to do is hit the Nexus. That's all you got to do, and it looks like they will be able to do exactly that, as Afrika will bring us to a game number 3 with that victory.
And it felt like that game wasn't as interesting as the drafts made it look like it might have turned out to be, because Afrika just got so many positive trades on the map, got a lot of control early, and just choked Afrika out. And in those last few moments, like, they got a free Baron. They shouldn't have been able to have a Baron